And Justin Steele, we trust, and the Chicago Cubs definitely need him at Wrigley Field in Game 2 of the series against the Milwaukee Brewers. Could we say a must-win game as the calendar is getting ready to flip to September? But before we get into all this Cubs talk, be sure to join our channel, like, subscribe, and comment. That is all you need to do. It takes about 5 seconds, and it makes sure that the content consistently pops up on your feed, and we can just have a good time together, Mick. So let's start off by looking at yesterday's game. Jameson Taillon, I want your overall thoughts on his outing. 6 innings, 9 hits, 4 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, and the 2 home runs he gave up. One to Christian Yelich early. Was pretty good outside of a horrific first inning.
Yeah, let me give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I love doing this. The good is the fact that the guy pitched 6 innings, because it didn't really seem like that was going to be possible when he was getting his butt whooped in the first, right? It gives up a home run to Yelich, and then all of a sudden the 2-run homer to Canna, and you're in trouble from the outset. But if you take him out in the first inning and you put somebody else in, now all of a sudden you've really limited your bullpen for the rest of the series, right? And although he didn't give a good enough start for the Cubs to be in that game yesterday, and they really weren't, and part of that was Wade Miley was great too. Wade Miley, former Cub, suddenly healthy, which is something that he never did as a Cub, right? But he's a good pitcher when he's healthy. He's a competitor, and he's a likable guy. And he's really kind of slotted in well with that Brewers homemade rotation, guys that I've talked about before that they brought up. But by Taillon pitching 6 innings, you get a positive out of a bad start. And I do think it was a bad start. And the reason is that when you're playing games like this is a playoff game. You could feel the vibe. Wrigley, all the people that were there who were watching our show, thumbs up to you guys. I wish you guys had a YouTube where I could thumbs up for you, because there was just an absolute vibe in that stadium last night. The friendly confines were just buzzing. They were waiting for the Cubs to do something, never had a chance because Taillon gave up 4 runs in the first before the Cubs ever came to bat, right? So the first inning with the Brewers' great starting pitching really doomed the Cubs in that game. And I'm going to say it again, starting pitching is going to determine the series. I said that yesterday, and I'll say that again today. So the good, obviously the bad was the first inning. The good was the fact that Taillon stuck around and got us through the 6th. And, and I'd say the ugly was just the fact that you gave up a home run to the very first batter, and you let the Brewers set the tone. And Milwaukee's red hot right now. So the Cubs are playing great baseball too. But these guys are playing their best baseball all year right now. Maybe they peaked too early, right? But that's a really big win for the Brewers, and one that gives them 9 in a row.
So that's the good, the bad, and the ugly. The confusing is how the Milwaukee Brewers are so good. You mentioned the starting rotation. You know that on the back end, you have Devin Williams, who's going to lock it down for you, and Piamps, and just a really good bullpen in general. So the overall staff is incredible. But you go up and down this lineup, and I know that games are not played on paper, but how is this Milwaukee team so good?
Well, it starts with pitching, and we talk about that all the time. And when you got, Woodruff and you got Miley and you got Burnes, and you're throwing out all of these guys that are going to give you a quality start day in and day out, you're staying in these games. And when you look at the Brewers' run differential, it's not great. They win a lot of really close games, and you get into the playoffs, and all of a sudden your offense has trouble scoring. And you're playing in these games, it's tough. I think it's tough for these teams to win. Some of them actually are better because of the fact they've played so many close games. But I don't look at this team and feel like, hey, these guys are a World Series contender. But then again, when you are built around pitching and you play some defense, you're always going to have a chance. So I think that's what it comes down to. I think they've got some pop with Yelich, a former MVP, a guy that can do everything on the baseball diamond. And right now they're getting on base, and maybe adding Mark Canna at the trade deadline has really bolstered these guys.
Yeah, Canna's a nice hitter. 32 games remaining right now for the Cubs. It's hard to say with 32 games left that anything is a must-win game. But 5 games back of Milwaukee in the standings. Justin Steele, your ace on the mound tonight. at home. I mean, is this a must-win game for the Cubs?
Yeah, if you guys think it's a must-win game, can't miss game, must-win game, say it in the comments. Get in there in the comments and talk about it, because I agree with you, Chuck.
And Mick,
You're exactly right.
I'm talking in terms of the Central.
No,
Obviously,
you're right.
they're in the playoffs right now. Yeah, I'm talking in terms of the Central. If this team wants a shot in the Central Division, can they lose a game with Justin Steele on the hill and be 6 back with 31 games remaining? That's a tough spot to be in.
No, that's what I'm saying. Get in the comment section. Tell me what you think. I think it is, because then if you fall another game back, and, let me pull up the standings just so you can get a look at them. But if you fall another game back of these guys, it's going to be really tough, just because there's not a lot of schedule remaining for you to make up ground. So you got to win here. These are the games that you really must win. And the reason why is that you only have, like you said, 32 games left. Now, you do play Milwaukee at the end of the season, something that I missed yesterday, and I'm going to get into that later. And I love the fact that you guys called me out for it, because that's what it's all about here, But you got those 3 at the end of the year, and you could hold close and get to within 3 and then win the division at the end. That'd be a lot of fun too. But I think today's a must-win game. Look at the Reds all the way 7 back. Remember, it was Milwaukee and Cincinnati that were tied for first for a while. But the Cubs had their 8-game winning streak. That really set up their season. Now, all of a sudden, it's the Brewers that have this 9-game winning streak, and it's coming at a good time for them to win the division.
It's extremely frustrating when you look at that last 10 and you see the Cubs with a 7-3 record, and you would assume, all right, Cubs have made quite a bit of ground on Milwaukee during the stretch. They did what they were supposed to do during the 12-game stretch, which was win about 75%. I know the math doesn't add up. They went 8-4, but that's what they were supposed to do. Split a series, win a couple series, then take 3 of 4. They did that. They lost ground to the Brewers, and they're 3-5 to Milwaukee this season. They could really use a win in this one. And Justin Steele at 14-3 and a 2.80 ERA. I mean, it's getting to the point where, with how consistent he's been lately, he's one of the top 3 pitchers in the National League to win the Cy Young in terms of odds. Who's better than this person? And the answer, maybe overall, not this season, is Corbin Burnes, rather, 9-6 with a 3.65. Now, he's been a little bit dicier this season than he has been in years past, but he's a perennial all-star year in and year out. If you like good pitching, get your ass to Wrigley Field, because tonight's going to be incredible.
Yeah, look, this is a great matchup too. I mean, for Justin Steele, a lot of these teams that get on a streak like this, the way that the streak ends is that they run into a hot pitcher. So you got one of the hottest pitchers against the hottest team in baseball. Who's going to win that battle? The Brewers are good, but they're not this good. We know that. They're just playing great baseball. Justin Steele, 14-3 and a 2.80 ERA. I think he's got a very, very reasonable shot to win the Cy Young Award. Tonight could go a long way to get him there. You put on your resume, hey, I'm the guy that came in and knocked out the Brewers streak at 9 games. They're playing great baseball. I think everybody's going to be paying attention to this, not just us as Cubs guys and on the Cubs baseball channel, and you guys as Cubs fans. I think there's a lot of people, and we even had some Brewers on watch the show yesterday. They're fired up about this. I think this is one of those games, though, that outside of our circle, outside of our scope in the NL Central, everyone's paying attention to this matchup tonight. And for Justin Steele, he's on a big stage. I love it when he's on a big stage. The guy's been so confident, able to throw his breaking balls where he wants them. He just stays ahead of the batters, and he's going to have to do that tonight. But it goes back to starting pitching. Corbin Burnes, I'm sure he's going to be loose. The Brewers are right now. They're playing their best. They probably feel invincible. But for Steele, just give the Cubs a chance. The Cubs didn't have a chance yesterday. Tyon got beat up in the first inning, and you're down 4 before you even have an opportunity to let the pressure of the game fall on the Brewers. The Cubs never got there. So for Justin Steele, keep the Cubs in the game, let those bats get going. And the Cubs have the best player on either team. And I think Christian Yelich is a really good player, but Cody Bellinger is the best player. And I look for him to do something big tonight.
Now that we're on that topic, we may as well mention that there are some parallels between Christian Yelich and Cody Bellinger. I've been telling you this for a while in terms of people thought Christian Yelich was down and out. It happens more in baseball than any other sport. You hit 29, you hit 30, you have a minor injury or a major injury, whatever it may be, and you just never get back to being the same player. Yelich had 2 or 3 bad years during that stretch of COVID, 2020, 2021, and has now gotten back to the Christian Yelich that we knew and that Brewers fans loved and that Cubs fans don't like at all. Cody Bellinger kind of has that same trajectory right now. It's been interesting to see how quickly he has turned it around with how many years in a row he slumped, because in baseball, you have 3 straight years where things are not just good, but pretty bad. You assume that they're down and out and that they've just aged and that their bat speed's not the same. No, not the case at all with either of these two.
Well, the Dodgers had a chance to re-sign Bellinger, and I'm sure he would have liked to have been a Dodger for his entire career. He was the face of the franchise. I've said to some of my Dodger friends, why didn't I know that this guy was so good? I guess I just didn't watch enough of their games. I saw him against the Cubs in the postseason, but you have to watch a player like him every day to get the entire picture. Now, the last couple of years, he was dealing with an injury and he didn't have the strength to hit the pitch up in the zone. And so I saw him striking out a lot on the 4-seam fastball. Now he's cracking those things. And his different swing paths to me are what stands out. You throw a slider, he's got the right swing path for it. You throw the high fastball, he's going to hit that. The 2-seamer, he's got that too. He's got these really quick hands. He uses the entire field. He's fast. He's a really smart player. Defensively, I love him at first base, and I love him in center field. I think if I was the Cubs, I'd put him at first base, and I'd put Pete Crow Armstrong, and this, I'd put him long-term in center field, and then have Bellinger maybe do some center field like they do, now. Maybe he plays more outfield than infield. But that's what I would do, because you could keep him around and healthy. It's an easier position to me, first base. But he's got soft hands. He's just a great player. And I don't know what's going to happen after the season, but I just was really surprised at how his entire game, not just home runs and RBIs, affect the team and how important he is.
Right, it's lead by example too. I mean, he's not the rah captain of this team per se, but lead by example. He does things the right way. When he's healthy, he's out there every single day, and he's a no nonsense guy for the most part. He goes out there, pretty stoic and chill. 2 words that I like using. But he definitely is a lead by example guy. Cubs are leading right now for that second wild card slot, up a half a game on San Francisco. Cincinnati's still in the mix too, a game and a half out. Miami, I know you're not as afraid about Miami just because of the fact that you don't think they have the horses in the stable. So if San Francisco right now and Arizona, for that matter, are the 2 biggest competitors, what's your level of nerves right here in the overall big picture when you look at the schedule and who the Cubs have remaining and how good Arizona and San Francisco have been at times this year?
Yeah, I got a funny story too to talk about Miami, but Philadelphia is starting to just hit their stride, and they're not catching the Braves. I mean, no one is, right? But they're the team that knocked out the Braves last year, right? I mean, they went to the World Series instead of Atlanta, so they've got to. You look at their lineup and you look at their team, and then what they added at the deadline. They're going to be a really tough out, yeah, and that's what you want to have. This time of year, you want to be playing your best baseball, and the Phillies are doing that. What I'm hoping is that here down the stretch against all these teams that are on the picture, except the Marlins, the Cubs are playing all these teams. They're going to see them a lot, So every series almost after this Brewers one, you're going to see the Diamondbacks. You're going to see San Francisco. You're going to see Cincinnati. So a loss is like 2 losses, and a win is like 2 wins. And the reason I say that is, look, the Cubs lost last night, but so did Arizona. So they're still a half game up, as you mentioned. The Giants won yesterday. They pick up a game. But the Cubs are still in the playoffs if the season ends. Cincinnati's another team that just doesn't have enough pitching for me to get into that group. But, anything can happen over the last month. Now, the story I was going to tell you about Miami and this is me being around the game every day. I'm talking to a Marlins scout we're kind of just having a conversation. And the Marlins and the Cubs apparently were working pretty hard on doing some stuff at the deadline. And then the Cubs pulled all the players off of the table because they were winning. So think about how different the Marlins could have looked if the Cubs wouldn't have been in that spot where they were, sellers and ended up, and where you're saying, hey, these are the guys that you might get. And I think that the Marlins are close. But a deal with the Cubs, say if they'd have got Bellinger, say what they would have got, maybe one more pitcher. Maybe they,
I was gonna give you the 30-second timeout, Mick, because they would have got Marcus Stroman and he'd be sitting on the sidelines right now. But yes, maybe they would have. Maybe that's
it. I didn't ask. They're not going to tell me any details, but I don't know if it would have been Stroman. I don't. That's a good question. Maybe it would have been. But who would the Cubs have gotten back? The Marlins have some good prospects, but this is a lot more fun. This is a lot more fun. I would rather do this every year than try to figure out what guy's coming up next to the big leagues.
It sucks right now losing to Milwaukee and seeing Milwaukee go on this 2021 Cardinals run where you're playing your best baseball right now. The Cubs are. And they are still losing ground on this team that on paper doesn't look good. It's super frustrating in that regard. But when you look at the wild card standings and you see that if the season ended today, the Cubs are in, not only that, they control their own destiny in terms of, yes, you're right. They have 4 against Cincinnati. And then they have, Arizona and San Francisco, I believe, in back-to-back series right there.
Yeah.
So you're talking over the next 10, 11 days, they can really separate themselves from these teams. And maybe Hollywood Pete gets the call, Ben Brown, if he gets healthy. Either way, you already have Jordan Wicks up to the big leagues, who's historic in his first start. So in Chicagoland right now, all seems to be well. As for you, comments of the day, you're doing all right. I know your feelings were hurt yesterday by someone saying, I can't take you seriously, dude. I take you seriously, Mick. You're a great broadcaster, and you have an abundance of knowledge.
Yeah, no, this guy's exactly right. Hey, Mick. Oh, that's the wrong one. Let me put the other one up first. That's our Jody Davis card winner. All right, look, this is exactly what I love. Look, if you guys got something to say, say it in a way where I can get on here and talk about it. But I was wrong yesterday. I missed it when I did the show that the Cubs and the Brewers play at the end of the year. So, I guess it's or whatever. Dude, we play the Brewers again. Hard to take you seriously. It's hard to take me seriously. I said, look, I dropped the ball there. How can I take myself seriously when I drop the ball and something like that? But look, I saw it and then it just kind of slipped my mind. So I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm going to try to do better. And I appreciate the comment. All right, now here, let me put this up. Hey, Mick, it's great to be in this position going into September. All the playoff teams facing each other. We'll be watching and listening to Pat and Ron. Go Cubs, time to shine. And I said, hey, you win one of the Jody Davis baseball cards. I got some bad news on these baseball cards. Some of them are Braves cards when he played for the Braves, but I've got 6 of them. He signed them. And the other thing about these cards is that they all say go Dogs on them. The reason why, and let me tell you guys the story. Jody Davis was drafted by the Cubs. He was going to go to Georgia and play baseball. He's a huge Georgia fan, college football fan, and he's from Gainesville, Georgia, or that area. And so when he got drafted, the Georgia Bulldogs were really good. He used to call home, and that was before we had all the internet and stuff. There was a guy, a legendary broadcaster named Larry Munson, and his mom would take the phone on long distance, leave the phone up so he could hear the radio that was into the phone. That's how far we've come in technology. So, he was giving me a hard time when he sent those. I'm going to send them out to you guys. So they've won back-to-back college national championships. I think these cards are special because they say go Dogs, and you know that story now.
Well, any sportscaster, going back to that first comment where you forgot that the Cubs played the Brewers the last series, any sportscaster, especially when they're sleep deprived, has done something like that before. Hell, I've stared at a prompter in the face and just flat out read the wrong thing. Been like, yeah, the Cubs are playing the Guardians today, and it's like, my producer's like, dude, it says the Twins right in the prompter. Like, where did you get Guardians? It happens, folks.
Yeah.
No one's
Yeah.
perfect. I'm glad that you acknowledged it. And the show goes on. Keys to the game. Let's finish with that, Mick. It's the most cliche thing in America. Is there a pregame show in the United States that doesn't start with, here's our keys to the game. Let's go to the X Factor. Mick Gillispie on the sideline has our keys to victory.
Right. And a lot of people put their keys together because they have to. I just felt like for this particular game, I wanted to do that. But, going back to the other thing, look, I don't know we're going to be perfect. We're going to try to be perfect, but I'm going to make some mistakes. We're going to have fun doing it. And honestly, I mean, we got a lot of knowledge over here that we want to share. But I love the fact that you guys in the comment section and that are watching the show are so educated on baseball. I love reading the comments and responding to them. And I've been blown away by you guys. All right. Keys to the game. All right. And I said this before, but we've got to have a quality start out of Justin Steele. It would be nice for the Cubs to at least play even or get a lead on Milwaukee early. Put a little pressure on them. Right. Second thing is set the table. It didn't feel like there was anyone on base last night. Got a couple of runs on solo home runs, but put some men on base and hit the home run. Like you need traffic on the bags against good pitching. And that leads me to my final key to the game is that Milwaukee right now is comfortable. You can tell by the way that they're playing. You can watch them, the way that they're in the pregame, everything that they're doing right now, they're hitting their stride. And to beat a team like that, you've got to put them in position where they're uncomfortable. Not to say that the Cubs are a big running team. Maybe you run a little bit more against Milwaukee. Maybe you incorporate some hit and run. I don't know. But there's a way that, you just got to watch the flow of the game. And if David Ross has an opportunity to make them uncomfortable, to kind of get them out of their comfort zone, a way to just kind of do something that maybe you don't normally do, but you can do just to make them think a little bit, I think that would help as well.
All right, man. Good stuff. The Tuesday edition before the Cubs take on the Milwaukee Brewers tonight at Wrigley Field. I hate saying must win, and it's must win in terms of the Central. The Cubs right now are firmly in the playoffs if the season ended today via the wild card. But if they want to win the division, in Steele we trust, Cubs are going to have to get it done. Mick, good stuff, man.
Hey, Lawrence Holmes, sometime soon, guys, from The Score. Thanks for hanging out with us. Like, subscribe, and comment for your chance to win that Jody Davis baseball card. Still got 4 of them left.